So, good morning to you. It is. Oh, look, it's almost that time. I am prepared. It is 4 o'clock in the morning ish, just after 4 o'clock in the morning. And, it's Wednesday, I think. The trash came today, so it must be Wednesday. I have currently no fucking need of keeping track of anything but when the next doctor's appointment is that I have to drive my wife to. And, how the hell are we going to get some food in this house? And keep the cell phones on? That kind of thing. Naturally, we don't have a landline. We're just cell phones only. But anyways, I made a video a couple years ago about how basically there was a slave army that was kind of a result of brainwashing. Basically, people being programmed to think a certain thing. And how they do it is simple. They just repeat a lie or a misconception over and over and over again until the people who've heard that repeated to them over and over again react very emotionally, almost kind of like demon possession, to the introduction of alternate theories or actual facts. When they hear information that is contrary to their programming, they just ah, they lose all emotional control. It's called a programmed response. And my stepdad, having worked for the CIA, oh yeah, did I mention that? Oh yeah, I think I've been forgetting to mention that for 3 years now. When I explained that to him, after his friend and fellow Vietnam veteran just stormed out and just fucking drove off. Sunday during a Memorial Day barbecue. So, let me just grab a sip of my coffee and light up a cigarette here because I want to play out this whole scene, how it started out. Because stepdad and I had been talking about one thing after another. He's not aware that Obama commissioned an aircraft carrier in 2009. It was delivered shortly after Trump took office. He doesn't believe that ships could be built in that period of time, and I told him I watched the video of the entire fucking building process, and yeah, sure enough, it happened. And I also refitted several, actually our entire aircraft carrier fleet, um, from steam to magnetic cannons so that they could increase their deployments by about 20%. Yeah, it just helps them get aircraft in the air quicker. which we could already do it quicker than anybody else by far. Well, we were talking about everything from whether or not somebody should be considered a spy. I mean, he basically he was repeating something on Fox News, and I was saying that's just a Fox News lie. And then he'd go with this thing about how he watches other news channels, not just Fox News, and only been watching Fox News for. I think he lied about how long he'd been watching Fox News, but you know that just gave me the upper hand spiritually because he knows once he's got a lie to justify his point of view, he's arguing from a position of weakness. Because he was what you call a honorable man. Unlike people that you see on TV every fucking day now. They just lie and lie and lie. And it's their comfort zone. My stepdad, not so much. Now, because his Fox News programming was so predictable, I was able to, at least get him to an impasse as far as whether or not Obama was, according to him, saying it over and over again as if he just heard it on Fox News over and over again and just felt the need to repeat it to me, that Obama was the worst president of all times. Well, I just calmly stated some things that he had did that saved us from the fucking Republicans. And, then people started to show up. And we agreed not to talk about Obama. And Vince, this friend of his, Vietnam vet too, I think, sat down. It's more like, like Red and the guy from the National Guard, like Pinciotti, um, as far as I know. So Pinciotti sat down because he closed down Furniture Mart or whatever. And Dave just go and tell him, let's just not talk about Obama one way or the other. And Vince, like an ignorant motherfucker, excuse me, Pinciotti, National Guard guy, he goes straight into an Obama bashing session. And then he goes on to calling, FBI got a spy in the Trump campaign. I'm like, and I like waited and just kind of let him, I basically corrected it on a couple things, and then it kind of died down for a second, and then he starts making some other reference about the mafia and how like the Russians were taking over the fucking mafia, and basically he just confirmed something I had told Dave earlier without him being there, and I kind of gave Dave a look. And sorry, my battery's getting low on my camera. I'm just fucking talking without even remembering to hold the damn thing up. But, so he starts talking about the mafia and how the Russians had been, moving in on the Italian mafia, basically taking over the mob. And I said, yep, Russian mafia is taking over everything. You know who's in charge of it? Vladimir Putin. And then he goes immediately into Trump again. He goes into Trump again. Well, that doesn't mean the FBI should have been something about. Doesn't mean Trump's been cooperating with him or something like that. And I'm like, hey, yeah, Donald Trump's just had ties to the mafia and been investigated by the FBI for ties to the mafia since 1985. Um, but it's the FBI's fault for noticing, hey, you're surrounded by fucking Russians and people just contacting Russians constantly and shit. And the FBI is just supposed to turn a blind eye to that, according to you. And then he goes into Hillary Clinton. I'm like, oh, yeah, let me guess. You don't like Hillary Clinton because of Benghazi, right? And he starts going off about the fucking stand-down order, and I'm like, stand-down order was debunked. By the way, you can find the debunk of the stand-down order on Fox News. FoxNews.com is the first debunk of the stand-down order that popped up. That's fucking hilarious to me. Even they have stood down from the stand-down order. So I said, okay, so all these, veterans who are trying to sway you because they're veterans, even though they're actually just Blackwater Apartment employees who haven't actually served in the military for quite some time. Did they mention anything about the Russian base that Putin was trying to build with Gaddafi's help in Benghazi? Did they mention anything about the Russian base in Benghazi? Why didn't they mention anything about the Russian? Why do you think they didn't mention it? And he got up and left. And everybody was kind of, really? He left on that? Just why didn't the Russians mention, why didn't they mention anything about the Russians building? And all of the talk about the fucking Benghazi thing, why didn't they mention anything about it? Could they have been working with the Russians that far back? And how are they doing it? Because they've got their slave army. People like that. Brainwashed. Programs to respond with vitriol and emotional eroticism. Got people blaming violence on video games when you have Mr. I could shoot somebody in the center of Manhattan and people are fucking calling him the president. I'm glad I almost burp hiccuped while I tried to say that. Even though I was saying it in other people's, they're calling him that. Not me. It's all a fucking ruse. He's not really the president. Yeah. Maybe I just gotta tell myself that to comfort myself, but there's so many things that don't make sense. So many things that don't make sense. In fact, I could give one of them away that would make it terribly obvious, but that would make it difficult for the people involved, and I wouldn't want to do that, although I've given reference to this previously. But let's just say, if he were the president, some people would have taken action against me, and they didn't. And, well, let me just put it this way. Considering the possibility, just the possibility, that someone could be cooperating with the enemy of our existence as a country, Russia, they've announced as such, You know, they did it for 100 years. They were trying to destroy us for 100 fucking years. For 100 years, they were trying to fucking wipe us off of the map. You know, they built 2,500 fucking nukes to do so. 10,000 at one point, but, you know, who's counting? If there's even the possibility of someone being compromised, even if they don't know it, they don't get a security clearance. They get a fake security clearance. They get pretend time. Okay? That's all he's getting. It's pretend time. Everything you saw, the inauguration, it's all a lie. It's all a performance. Trump is going to jail. And unless they let him win, they couldn't take down his entire apparatus. Could they? Therefore, and bear in mind that the Mueller investigation, it's not really the center of the game. In fact, there really is no center, is there? It's kind of spread across 5 different jurisdictions. And then there's what you call foothold protocol. Okay. Now, I don't pretend to know what our actual foothold protocol is. But if one can imagine the various shadow government scenarios that have been put forward on conspiracy channels and the like, consider a foothold situation to be the most dire of circumstances regarding martial law or emergency management. Slave army. There is one. It's real. It's happened. They're called Trumpists. And they're fucking tearing this country apart. And behind the scenes, those who professionally and objectively defend this country are rooting out the problem from its sources. And until they can make their move, there's going to be people on TV who you know don't want to call him president. Calling him president because they know they're just playing along. Because they know what they're being told is impossible. Many of them probably actually know more than they're allowed to say on the news as they report it. And, let's just say one civil war has already been fought, and they don't take rebellions lightly. Let's face it. That's what this was. A Confederate hijacking of an election. With the help enemy numero uno. Ain't that something? Oh well. Happy 420. So, is anybody here in the chats? Doesn't look like anyone's watching. I've been seeing basically no difference in revenue, no matter what my content is. No matter how I censor myself, or no matter what I do. It's just a fun coincidence how the one thing they haven't really mentioned is the timing between meetings between Trump campaign members and Trump himself and Russia. And the changes in policies, trends, and even the changes in the algorithm on YouTube. You know, after I was homeless, I lived in the college area of Baton Rouge. And that's how I wound up using YouTube. Because all those kids were using YouTube, not only on their phones, but they had YouTube instead of cable on their TVs with either PlayStations or Xboxes, console gaming systems with YouTube apps. Now me, I had been for many years what's referred to as a PC gamer. And that's because on computers you can, change your resolution and performance based upon the hardware that you have. And I knew how to get good hardware pretty cheap, so I would always build systems that were more economical but would outperform consoles. Now, eventually it became the case that you could get a better variety of video games on a console. But there was always just some games that didn't work on a console. But having gotten over that portion of gaming in my life, where, I would sit there and just play Warcraft 2 for no reason for days at a time. Now it's more like, I want to stay informed, and I want, like, random information is fun. Like stuff that you used to get on social media. Plus cable news channels, racing, Australian news channels, Australian racing. Unfortunately, YouTube's continued to incriminate themselves, even though people have tried to give them many chances, hints, if you will, both overt and opaque. But, perhaps their connection to certain Mueller indictments. See, Mueller is the show. Mueller is the messenger. Not the messenger, the messager. He is the anti-tweet. He's the anti-twit. Smart guy. Great guy. Profoundly powerful and connected guy. Much more powerful than any president has ever been. And if you don't understand the motivation that would be required to, say, seize all assets of a major corporation, there's two things that you do need to understand. One is the definitions of some charges that have been filed, among which are conspiracy against the United States, and another is conspiracy to defraud the United States. Google people, are you listening? You should be. Now, the other thing that you need to realize is that Mueller knows who Larry Silverstein is. Silverstein. And you can be guaranteed that according to the 1969 or 72 or something, whatever, the charter that created the Warren Commission, okay, established a precedent that basically you have a public investigation and a private investigation. And the public investigation doesn't provoke Russia. Russia is the one country that we fear. Always has been. Ever since World War II. And for good reason. Now, consider this. Why haven't they said that this was all just a sting? Why haven't they said that Donald Trump is really being investigated for treason? Why haven't they said that this Donald Trump's presidency itself, if allowed to happen in a legitimate way, which it's not, would be an utter affront, an assault even, on America itself? Well, when did those same people that you're thinking of on television, in government, in general, ever point out how obvious it is that Russia was behind Kennedy's assassination? So you gonna believe them or me? No, I'm just theorizing here, but I think it's a pretty valid theory. And, you know, maybe it's just a fool's hope. But, I don't smoke that much dope. Doesn't really count as dope, does it? Cigarettes doesn't rhyme with hope. Yeah, anyways. So, at this point, there's probably about 15 Republicans in Congress who are cooperating and about 23 who are going to jail. Can you tell who's who? I can't. I kind of can, but don't have it entirely figured out. Oh, Roseanne. Everybody's all too happy to talk about that shit, huh? Especially Trump. Oh, let the media talk about something else. Besides Don Jr. meeting with fucking Russian oligarchs. Hmm. You know, I really didn't think Trump was this stupid. He should have resigned a long time ago. Just so fucking greedy that he's basically leading us to everyone we've ever wanted to arrest. It's kind of hilarious. Unfortunately. And all the time that it's taking, I might wind up going fucking broke because of Google's bullshit. And they just make one excuse after another on why they don't monetize this and don't promote that. But what it all comes down to it is they inhibit serious discussion. Period. They always have. They've made money off of promoting mass hysteria. And now that they can't do that, they're making sure people that try to correct the problem can't. Just funny and incriminating. Because if they were a for-profit corporation, well, they would see how much money Rachel Maddow's making, and they would want to see if they could blend the subjects. They would want to see if they could maybe find people talking about the same things and promote them. No. Instead, they just let random little channels, now it's KV-Now, upload news clips and monetize them. Shea Ducks Media. And that's all you got. There's a channel called Impeach Trump, and all it does is fucking upload news clips and make you watch Sarah Huckabee Sanders and shit. You know, all it would take is 15 fucking people. Just pay 15 people to sit there and pretend to be subscribers to YouTube. One of just each of them different interests. 15 different interests. Covers the whole range of fucking subjects. 15 fucking people is all it would take for none of this bullshit to happen. 15 people is all it would take to see what the algorithm is putting out and make notes of what needs to be corrected. And then these side uploaders, these just continual copyright infringers posing to be channels. At this point, it's preposterous to debate it, actually. But although investigated, I have less hope about the YouTube thing, about Google being properly held to account and being molded back into something that isn't defrauding the United States. You know, like living up to its namesake, for instance, YouTube. I don't see any U's. All I see is fucking channels and stupid compilation things and produced crap. This is media. This is not you. Closest thing I get to a U tubing at me is the David Pakman Show. And let's face it, that's not really a YouTuber. And I got fail and win compilations. That's it. I must be the only person in the planet who ever makes videos about Trump. and Russia and YouTube and Google and Satanism. Oh yeah, I'm the only person on YouTube interested in Satanism. What kind of rationalizations do these people have to make in their legal arguments? Or do they just assume a legal case will never be brought? Getting dragged into more courtrooms every fucking week. And if it takes another serious event to get my warning across, let me just remind you of the specifics of that warning. The only way to even look like you're not guilty is to let me make money. Because let's face it, dearies, there's things that I don't tell you. One of those things, just as an example, but slightly unrelated, is that the only way Trump could hold on to his presidency is to hire me as his chief of staff. Lawyers, generals, politicians. Are you impressed? Because I'm not. And well, there is no one who could even put him on a path that he would agree with enough. No one could convince him that it was his idea. To actually act like an American for a change. Nobody but me, that is. But about YouTube. You see, by continuing to suppress the first person that called this, it's painfully obvious how much you imply your own involvement in this. And well, I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut. Click the like button for me. Let me know you watched.